Andrew. First of all, I'd like to say a really big thank you for agreeing to do this Training the Brain course with us. I am just so excited about it. So thank you so much.
Problem. Nice to see you again, Jules.
You too. Well, I have known you for years, and I've always been inspired by your knowledge and enthusiasm for your subject. And of course, many of our followers will have seen you presenting at the annual Horses Inside Out conference, because you've been there a few times now, which is just great. But I thought having this little interview would be a great opportunity for perhaps more of our followers to learn a little bit more about you. Now, you are the principal lecturer at the Royal Agricultural University for Equine Science, so you clearly have a very broad knowledge when it comes to equine science. So what exactly led you down the path to focus on equine behaviour?
So I think I've always had a love for the horse as a species, and I've also had a love for anything that's biological, particularly when we're thinking about the biology of the brain. And I truly think if we think about the horse as a species, unlike some of the other livestock animals, pigs, sheep, cows, etc., that we use for milk and wool and meat and that kind of thing, the main product that we're interested in as far as horses are concerned is really that animal's behaviour. Because if we don't have suitable behaviour and a trainable temperament, we can have a horse with the very best conformation and competition potential, but if we can't train that animal, they're very little use to us. And following on from that, if we think about the brain and its importance as far as behavioural control is concerned, if we're going to understand horse behaviour, if we're going to understand training, optimal management, and optimal welfare of this species, then in my opinion, I really think we need to understand what's going on up here. We need to know about the brain. And it surprised me that no one had really looked at the brain in relation to horse behaviour until we started doing that about 20 years ago. And so now I'm about 21 years into my research into the equine brain. And I have to say what I'm really passionate about is taking the neuroscience and making that applicable to the everyday horse owner, to the everyday trainer. So taking the neuroscience and making it applicable and usable in that sense.
Yeah, that's so important, isn't it? And I've seen on some of your research, you're looking at behavioural and cognitive tests. Is that something that that horse owners can really use? Is that something that we'll be talking about on this training the brain day?
Yes, for sure. So here at the RAU, we do some quite detailed cognitive testing with some sort of computer controlled cognitive testing devices, and that's fine for research purposes. But where I've been looking at in depth for the past 4 or 5 years is trying to design behavioural markers of brain function, things such as eye blink rate, and cognitive tests which can be applied on any yard with the very minimal of equipment that anyone can literally go and have a go at. And again, for me, the neuroscience has to be usable by your everyday horse owner and your everyday coach or trainer. So absolutely, Jules, that's going to be a strong focus of this session. How can we as horse owners and horse keepers utilize cognitive testing and behavioral markers of brain activity to tell us a little bit more about what's going on up here and how we might have to adapt our management and training in line with a particular individual's brain function.
That's fantastic. That really applicable use of science. It's going to be absolutely fascinating.
Sure.
As you know, I love anatomy, so I'm really excited that there's going to be a dissection element to this. And I've loved working with you on dissections before, and hopefully it's something that we'll do again in the future. But on this course, obviously there'll be the session on the dissection of the brain. But what do you think can be learnt from looking at a real dissection rather than just looking at a photograph or diagrams? What can be learnt from the dissection that's different there?
Yeah, well, I mean, two-dimensional anatomical drawings, such as the ones that we've all studied during GCSEs, A levels, and degrees, they're absolutely fine. But you don't gain a proper three-dimensional appreciation of the structures. So I have a range of preserved specimens in our laboratory. I'm going to be showing you a range of fresh specimens also. And for me, as far as learning anatomy is concerned, that's the best way to do it, to get the specimens out and to develop a three-dimensional understanding of how the various structures interact from a functional standpoint.
Yes, oh, that's going to be so fascinating. Really can't wait for it. And so one more question, because obviously you have done a huge amount of research. There's loads out there. What would be your sort of favourite research to recommend for maybe equine therapists to go away and read?
Yeah, for me, I think some of the research that I looked into on the effects of massage as a stress relieving tool, that's one of my favorite papers. It's an older paper, fair enough, but one I come back to all the time. And that was a paper we published all the way back in 2004. But I think any of the more recent papers in the last 2 or 3 years, which have focused on the behavioural biomarkers of things like temperament, for example, because obviously a consideration of temperament is quite crucial for a range of therapy modalities, and the use of subtle markers such as blink rate to predict temperament. That's another thing that I feel is a useful tool in any therapist's box.
Yeah, fascinating. That's really good. Thank you so much, Andrew. I won't take up any more of your time, but really, I can't wait for this day, all on training the brain. So it's in February, Saturday, the 19th of February next year. So really, really looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing you and learning loads more about training the brain. So thank you so much, Andrew.
Not at all, Gilles. I always enjoy connecting with the Horses Inside Out audience, because I think the folks that you attract to your events really have the ability to take on board the knowledge that I'm giving and then put it into practice. So for me, this ticks all the boxes.
Brilliant. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much.